Dear friends, welcome to another episode of Geopolitical and Military News. In this video, we will discuss the main reason behind Vladimir Putin's discomfort regarding Finland's entry into the alliance. In November 1939, Stalin, wanting to show the world that he too was capable of achieving great military victories, invaded small Finland under the false claim that the Finns were preparing to attack the gigantic Soviet Union. As Finland was militarily much inferior, Stalin believed that this conflict, dubbed the Winter War, would be swift, with the Soviet dictator launching nearly 400,000 soldiers and close to 3,500 armored vehicles in the initial attack, while the Finns had just over 100,000 soldiers and only 23 armored vehicles. Despite the overwhelming numerical and technological superiority, the Finns exploited the terrain's difficulties by executing lethal ambushes that decimated the initial waves of the Soviet attack. Faced with international embarrassment, Stalin escalated further, deploying a total of 750,000 men against the Finnish traps. Finland, faced with this overwhelming force and despite causing nearly 50% casualties to Stalin's army, was forced to accept defeat, surrendering approximately 14% of its territory to Stalin. Sometime later, in June 1941, when Germany invaded the Soviet Union, the Finns saw an opportunity to reclaim the territory stolen by Stalin, thus initiating the continuation war. Despite a strong initial advance that regained the lost lands in 1940, Soviet counterattacks from 1943 onwards were relentless, forcing Finland to sign an armistice with the Soviet Union in September 1944, whereby the Finns declared war on Germany, expelling over 200,000 German soldiers from the country. Knowing the Finns' martial spirit well, Stalin made no major demands after the war, limiting himself to offering them full sovereignty and independence as long as they remained neutral, an agreement that was fully adhered to by the Finns, who throughout the Cold War were adamant about not taking sides with either the United States or Russia. With this long tradition of neutrality radically changing after the Russian invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, the Finns became concerned. If Putin had invaded Ukraine using baseless arguments and justifications, he could very well do the same to them in the future. This perception was decisive in leading Finland to initiate the accession process in 2022, a process that was concluded on April 4, 2023, with the country's official entry into the alliance, opening a direct land border of 1,350 kilometers with Russia. Besides the obvious issue of a new and gigantic border with the alliance, Putin has another very strong reason to be deeply unsettled by this: Finnish artillery. Despite Finland not aligning with the West during the Cold War, throughout that period, the Finnish armed forces always trained under the same conflict scenario, one involving an attack from the south and east, directly from Russia. For generations, the Finns simulated and trained to face a war against Russia, using all the experience gained during the two wars fought against the Soviet Russia between 1939 and 1944. Of all the lessons learned in those wars, one stood out: the importance of artillery. According to military historians, if Finland had had more artillery pieces available in 1939, it would have caused even more casualties to the Soviet invasion force and, in the extreme, could have even compelled Stalin to withdraw. This lesson marked the Finns so much that, during the Cold War, extreme attention and importance were given to artillery, leading Finland to heavily invest not only in the production and acquisition of artillery pieces, but also and mainly in the development of modern doctrines for the use of this type of weapon. With all this effort, resulting today in 2024 in one of the largest European arsenals of artillery, with over 1,500 pieces of various calibers, in addition to traditional towed pieces with calibers of up to 155 mm. The Finns operate large quantities of modern self-propelled howitzers, such as the South Korean K9 Thunder, in addition to the iconic M270, the heavy version of the HIMARS, capable of firing rockets at targets up to 90 kilometers away with pinpoint accuracy, a type of weapon that in recent years has caused great headaches for Russian invading forces in Ukraine. As I mentioned earlier, far beyond the mere acquisition of artillery pieces, Finland has devoted much effort to the development of doctrines for the use of this type of weapon, with the Finns further refining their doctrines through careful observation of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, specifically regarding the use of HIMARS by Ukrainian forces against strategic Russian positions in the rear. This has led Finland to possess today, in addition to one of the largest European arsenals in terms of artillery, also and mainly one of the best trained and prepared troops for the use of this type of weapon in modern warfare. All of this, coupled with the new 1,350 kilometers border, deeply irritates and bothers Vladimir Putin. If you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now to support us, and leave your like. Until next time.